Welcome to the CCEE Distance Learning Consortium. My name is Jennifer Gately, and I will be your facilitator for this series from San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools. Today, we will be exploring Hot Topic Session 7, Engaging Adolescents in Distance Learning. As we explore this session together, we will be looking at continuing our journey into the why, the what, and the how of distance learning and family engagement. Today's session topics include supporting independence in distance learning, the value of parent, teacher, student partnerships in distance learning, and determining appropriate roles in distance learning for our adolescents, families, and teachers. But first, let's begin with a quote. Empowering is about ownership and agency. Providing opportunities for voice and choice in learning experiences is how we create learning experiences that empower the learners. As we continue together in distance learning, engaging adolescents in the middle school years and the high school years has become another important priority in distance learning. Distance learning in these older years is the beginning of a life transition into young adulthood. So finding the opportunity to empower students in that journey, to give them the ownership, the agency, the independence, but at the same time, the support to make sure that distance learning is successful for them and supports their future goals, that is the challenge that we will be exploring today. So let's continue that discussion a little bit further as we look at adolescents in the teenage years of distance learning. Our ultimate goal is to encourage that gradual release of responsibility so that students are successful in their transition into distance learning and that they're prepared with skills and knowledge that set them up for success in not only distance learning, but in the real world experiences that are developing around them. Oftentimes, when we look at distance learning programs, we often see the iceberg analogy. Adolescents who are academically successful in distance learning programs and those who are not. And what we see when we look at those students is often what is above the surface, the top of the iceberg. What we often don't see are the underlying factors, those skills that are under the surface of the water that still require additional guidance and attention for adolescents as they not only work to become proficient learners in distance learning, but also proficient in the lifelong skills that they're developing at the same time. So let's explore that question a little further. How do we support the needs of adolescents in distance learning, especially when those students often don't recognize or want the support that's being offered? First of all, identifying the role of the teacher. This is the constant from the traditional classroom to the distance learning classroom. That we look at the role of the teacher as creating rigorous learning opportunities for students to engage in distance learning. That teachers continue to find opportunities to allow for student voice and student choice so that distance learning is relevant to them, not only to their learning needs, but to their interests as well. And that our teachers continue to be available to students for ongoing support as needed. The role of the teacher in distance learning, especially with our older adolescent students, is often as much of a relationship role as it is an instructional role. And so we are grateful for that support that we have for our teachers. But number two, we now have to engage the role of the parent. And oftentimes we know that as students are in their traditional learning environment, the parent's role is not as prominent during these adolescent years. So how do we work together with our families to not only find value in the parent's role, but to find impact in that role as well? Here are some examples. First of all, setting clear and responsible expectations for the parent in engaging with the students, giving them enough support so that they can be successful, but enough space so that they can fail when necessary and learn from those moments as well. Encouraging students' choice in managing the distance learning day, even when it might be different from how the families might manage the distance learning day. Allowing students the opportunity to explore their learning style, schedule, space, and place in a way that is beneficial to them. and it might not be quite as beneficial to the family. To allow them to make connections to personal interests and future goals, having conversations with students so that they see the value and the importance of distance learning, not just in what they have to do today, but in what they might want to do someday, and finding the connection between school day learning and future growing. And finally, staying involved and informed in your students' process. This is quite the challenge at times, whether it is in traditional learning or in distance learning, and involves parents' ability to have open communication, not only with their students, but with their teachers as well, and honoring the trust between that trifecta of parents, teacher, and students that are being a support during distance learning. Finally, empowering the student's role. This is a transition for all students, adolescent students included. So working together with students so that they feel capable and confident to make this transition into distance learning, just as they would in any other life transition that may come in the future. Giving students the tools and the strategies they need to get themselves organized. Working with students so that they recognize the value to be on time every day, prepared for the distance learning day, whether it is together with their teacher or whether it is a time of asynchronous learning on their own. That students know how to stay connected with people that are in their new learning environment. When is a time and what is a way to connect to the teacher, to their classmates, to fellow students, and to their families as well, so that they know when to ask for help. And asking for help, we know, is one of the greatest challenges in distance learning, not only for adolescents, but for our families as well. And knowing that asking for help is not just asking for help on today's lesson, that asking for help might mean asking for help with a tool or a resource that you don't have. It might mean asking for help on a day when you're exhausted or tired and don't know how to engage in the classroom learning. Or it might be asking for help and flexibility during a time when completing the assignment needs more support than completing yesterday's assignment. But the ability to ask for help is a strength, not a weakness, for our adolescents to learn during distance learning. So in summary, adolescence is an important period for cognitive and social emotional development. During this time, teens will develop the ability to problem solve and explore their interests as they're given opportunities to take their own steps towards independence, not only in life, but in learning as well. So we encourage you families, as you look at this opportunity to engage with your adolescent children during distance learning, that this is a time to rebuild the relationship between you and your teens during distance learning, not only for the learning of today, but the future growth of tomorrow. To do so, we invite you to continue with us as you look at some of the activities that might support you in empowering your older students to develop independence, agency, voice, and choice in their distance learning experiences. To talk openly with your student about the value of everyone's role in distance learning, from how the teacher and parent provide support to your expectations during the school day and beyond, but most importantly, to their needs, their responsibilities, their plan, and their goal for distance learning. This brings session 7 to a close as we engage our adolescents in distance learning together with our families. We invite you to continue with us on this professional learning journey as we move forward into session 8, and we look at what best practices in family engagement can we utilize to support everyone in distance learning. Thank you.